Hello everyone, Austin here, on this 4th edition of Paleo-Zoo-Keeper Rant. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I hope you all had a great New Year's Day and Eve. And in this video, it's going to be a question and answer video. I will be answering questions that have been asked me by many people in the comment section throughout the years, from recently to earlier, to like years ago. And along with questions, I'll also be responding to some certain comments, and will give my answers, responses, and whatnot of them. Now, as I as I as I pretty much reply and respond to these comments, I might not bring up the names, but if you know, you know. This is the great finale to the series, PZA. Will you do similar video series on the other dragon species from Dragons of Fantasy Made Real, like the prehistoric dragon and Chinese/forest dragon? Well, if I had to be honest with you, in the beginning, I did thought of doing that, of doing a series on all the 4 different types of dragons throughout the mockumentary. But then when I did research for this video, as I got into it, I realized that it was actually going to be extremely difficult to do so. Now, the reason for that was because we have more hands-on or grounded information on the mountain dragon than we did on the others. Like, we got some ideas on weight and size on the mountain dragon, more so than we did on the others. And not to mention several behaviors and things that are very specific to the mountain dragon. And like, for example, we don't have like the weight and size given to us of the prehistoric dragon or the forest dragon. Now, I know there are videos that pretty much pretty much did this sort of thing, but they came in very, very late. By the time I was within the midst of publishing the trilogy videos. So, yeah. So I would say, for the most part, no, I will not be doing that, unless someone who both sponsors and provides the information supported by the mockumentary review it, maybe. But for the time being, not really. Comments and suggestions on videos such as rewilding the moas, cloning the terror bird, rewilding Gigantopithecus, rewilding the Californian tapir, and so much more. You guys offer a lot of really good video ideas. Some of them I even thought of doing in the future myself. Now, that's actually one of the challenges of this channel. It's not like trying to figure enough content for the videos. There's a large variety of content I could bring in. Just I couldn't be able to nicely put so much in such a small space of time. If you guys are interested in me doing a video like that, one of the ways could go. Like, you can either wait until they come about. There's a lot of ideas. Or if you definitely want it, you could be able to sponsor that video. And information on the video sponsorship would be on my Patreon page. I have a question which may have already been asked. Do these 3 special videos, which are already a part of the mockumentary Dragons of Fantasy Made Real universe, are part of the same canon as the others about typical extinct animals, how they care and reintroduce them, or are they strictly in their own apart canon? To that's the easy one. It's the latter. Yes, they're a part of their own canon, not canon to everything else. Just like how that mockumentary is not canon to our universe, these dragon videos are not canon to the generalistic canon of the channel. So, no fears on that. It's just a special. A video about Neanderthal Man, and I mean their reintroduction to society as people. Now, I'm pretty sure, as many of you would know, that I don't do videos on hominids, or at least humans in particular. And because this just strays too close to the dark history of human zoos, like I mentioned. But to the reintroduction of society as people, that's something I am not qualified in. Like, basically, the reintroduction of society, that's more of a field work of an anthropologist or a cultural expert or a psychologist, people who are more qualified in that sort of thing than me. I'm just a guy who knows how to integrate a new cow into a new cow herd, rather than integrate people into a new society. And not to mention, in some ways, that kind of sentence alone can be a little bit off, because this could go one two ways. If you basically clone a Neanderthal, he's pretty much just born in our society. He's not needing to be introduced to society like a foreigner from a foreign country needs to. And not to mention, getting into this would get a little too testy. Because one of the reasons why I stay off the hominids and humans in my videos is because not only dark history of human zoos, but also the science of it gets crazy. Like, we initially thought the Neanderthals were dumb brutes at one time. Then as we learn and learn, turns out they were more and more like us. And now recently I've learned that now they're pretty much just like us. Unfortunately, there's still like back and forth debate about it, and even sometimes get into some territory that's makes me uncomfortable. So I will not. I would not touch that kind of subject. If there's someone who would actually, like an anthropologist, or basically someone who's more qualified in human behavior than me, could do a video on that, then perhaps I would definitely like to watch that video. But I would not be the one to make that video. So yeah, another way, I'm not doing that kind of video. Can you please do a video on the marsupial lion sometime? My answer to that, it would be 1,000 times yes. It's one of my favorite mammalian predators, and I definitely look forward to doing a video on them. In fact, I may do one on the video much sooner than you think. You'll have to wait later in this video to know when. Which do you think it's more logical for dragons to fly and breathe fire? The Last Dragon documentary or Flight of Dragons? Ho ho ho. This one is actually going to have a pretty big answer, I promise you that. You'll see why. Now, for those who don't know the whole thing on it, Flight of Dragons is not a documentary or mockumentary, but an old animated, I think 1980s movie that was inspired by a book with the same title. Basically mentioned that it's basically like a fantasy adventure with science in it, interesting enough. But basically, what this person is asking is that in that movie, dragons are able to fly by basically they would ingest limestone, and they will have like a crop-like organ called a craw, where they fill up with gems, and then once they swallow the limestone and put it in their craw, and we'll use the gemstones to grind up the limestone, much like birds use grit to grind seeds. And then once the limestone gets into the stomach, it makes hydrogen to make them float like a blimp. Kind of similar to how it is in the Last Dragon documentary. And on how they breathe fire in that, it's basically that, well, hydrogen is a flammable gas, and they just belch it out. But when they belch it out, the gas would go through a fork thimble. So on the roof of your mouth, that's filled like a thimble, And in that thimble, there's electricity. And makes that electricity, ignites the hydrogen, and makes a fire breath. So, there's that. Now, I'll get to the logical flight part later. I'll go to the fire first. I would say a combination of the two ideas would be a logical way for a dragon fire. At least that's my personal thing. Like, basically, and for those who don't know, in the last dragon documentary, the dragons make hydrogen as well, but only through gut bacteria that produces hydrogen after they digest food. And they would store the gas in these called quote unquote flight bladders. And then when they wanted to breathe fire, they would burst out. They would chew platinum, a rare valuable mineral. That when the gas goes through the crushed platinum, the hydrogen combusts and makes fire. Now, I would actually say that a more logical conclusion for fire breathing, at least for the dragons, would be that they would make their own hydrogen with their stomach, with their gut bacteria, since it definitely seems something that animals are more willing to do. And then once they shake their hydrogen out, that they'll have a fork thimble that with electricity, since we have electric animals such as like electric catfish, electric rays, and the more famous electric eels, and we have electricity in our bodies as well. So it makes sense that they have a little area that will spark where that can light up the hydrogen, burns it out. To me, that together makes a very logical fire breathing dragon sort of thing. Now for the flight, as I mentioned in my other videos, the hydrogen would not be a really good thing to make them be lighter than air. I mean, give credit in the flying dragons, the dragons actually look like scaly blimps, technically speaking. But for flight, they will most likely be a quadrupedal animal, not a hexapod with 6 limbs. Not because the muscle configurations will be ridiculous. Like, I mean, what you see in birds and bats, their muscles for their flight consumes the whole chest area. Would not leave any room for usable front limbs. If anything, they won't be able to do much flying at all. I think if there are going to be hexapodal flyers, those hexapodal animals will actually be gliders rather than flyers, since they'll just have some muscles to be able to move them open and close, and probably even hold them open, but not to actual power flight. They'll have to glide. Think like a flying squirrel. But if they want true flight, they'll either be bipedal, like a bipedal flappers, like a bird, or quadruped launchers with their wings, like a pterosaur. Now, here's a little catch, though. I think that if basically scientists have said that the pterosaurs are the larger ones because they will use their wings to both lift them off the ground and flap. That's what scientists think why they are the largest of any of the birds. While birds have to jump and flap in order to do that, which has a lot of muscle demand, and the reason why they're generally smaller. I can imagine if you did have a hexapodal animal try to fly, they will actually be they'll be even smaller to make it work. So there's that as well, and that's my logical conclusion with the flying and fire breathing of dragons. Would you ever consider making more speculative videos on cryptids like Bigfoot, Loch Ness, or Chupacabra? Would I do cryptids? When I was young, ever since I was young, I have been interested in cryptids. Ridiculously so. I have so many files based off of them. I mean, I relaxed that as I got older, but I was getting interested in them, especially when the cryptids themselves can either bring up good science fiction ideas, or, since we learned that some cryptids eventually became real animals. But doing speculative videos for my channel on them, I would say probably not that much, if ever. Like Bigfoot, maybe maybe considered a hominid, so maybe off territory there. We're not certain what Nessie really is. And Chupacabra? Oh boy. Yeah, that one's just ridiculous. So, most likely, no. No, it will not be done. I will not do speculative videos on cryptids at this point. And even if I do, they'll be based on with some more workable information. And not just something out of the blue. And it'll be mostly just as special than anything else. Maybe you could do another video based on another mockumentary, Mermaids, A Body Found. I knew that people are going to be asking me for that one when I made the dragon videos. The answer would actually be no. I will not make a video based on that mockumentary. And I got two reasons. One is that I honestly didn't really like that one. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of the science they put in and whatnot is really cool and pretty much puts a good an interesting perspective, especially on that old theory of the aquatic ape theory. But they made it too conspiracy nuts and theory and all that jazz. I mean, sometimes conspiracy stuff works well for like movies and entertainment, but it just didn't work for me well here. And even if that didn't bother me, the mermaid actually goes to with my no human hominid policy. Now, I know that's not really a hominid per se in relation to us, but to me, it seems too close to that. It pretty much goes on that kind of territory. So, unfortunately, no, I'm not going to do a video on based on that mockumentary. If you could fill a zoo with 7 prehistoric species from any period, what would you choose first? Well, if I had to do that, I would definitely choose a prehistoric animal that is, well, A, is very recognizable and very popular and well known to the public, but also can be a bit easy to manage in the beginning. Like, as much as people want it, I would not start with a T-Rex first. I mean, yes, T-Rex would definitely be big star attraction, but since we don't have a lot of things that are very similar to what we have today with T-Rex, it will be more of a hassle and probably even be detrimental to the T-Rex's health, well-being. Probably not. I would probably start with something that's more familiar. Not only that they're popular and well-known, but they're also more familiar from a management perspective. I would start with something like a woolly mammoth, saber-toothed cats, prehistoric animals that died off more recently. That we have more of an idea of what their needs would be, but they still have that fame about them. And then later on, you could be able to add on more. Like I mentioned before, like if you were talking about specifically prehistoric, not creatures from historical times like Tasmanian tigers or dodo, I would go with like the woolly mammoth, obviously. I mean, their needs are basically similar to elephant, just incorporate some Arctic dependent needs like that of a muskox, for example. Saber-toothed cats, those would definitely be good ones. Either Smilodon or Homotherium. Though I think we'll more likely get Homotherium resurrected than saber-toothed cats and Smilodon at this point. And I'll start with that. And as you go, and then as you're able to get crowds, you have to get finances, and you get more resources, then you can go to the more bigger and more extravagant animals like dinosaurs, mammals from early on, like Entelodons, and so on. Basically start with the easy popular ones first, then go for the difficult ones later on. At least That's what I would choose. And the 7 species, well, woolly mammoths and saber-toothed cats. That's 2. Entelodons. Probably go for the smaller species at this point, or even the bigger species, even. And then I go, well, of course, Triceratops. And then we'll go with and so many great animals. Really hard to choose. I could go for Etherium for a really unique wild card. Then I would, and then Brontotheres. That's a good one. And then, well, of course, Tyrannosaurus Rex. But that would just be like the cherry on top. Since I'm pretty sure anyone would definitely guess that it's a big challenge. What do you think are some of the worst dinosaur films made? What are some of the worst ones? Sometimes it depends on one's perspective and tastes, I guess. But for me, well, I think one of the ones I think was some of the worst is one that came from a sci-fi channel. I don't entirely remember. It's a time-traveling movie with Michael Gross in it, which is sad and ironic since I loved Michael Gross's work in Tremors, and yeah, I do love the Tremor franchise. Mostly the first four movies with the TV series. Definitely love those. And when in the end, when they had the T-Rex running about, you can tell they just based the T-Rex CGI from an old electronic dinosaur toy. To me, that felt insulting. But another one, I think it's more relevant to you guys, is mostly the movie 65. Yeah. I mean, the concept is like a video game is cool, but how they did with the dinosaur, especially that giant four-legged one, that just made too much like them. I think that would be one of the worst dinosaur films made, and I just don't like it. So, yeah. But also, I don't think the Jurassic World movies actually even count as the worst dinosaur films made. No. I mean, like I said, I've seen worse. I mean, I only mentioned the 2, but they're worse than those. And I always like them. So, yeah. What are some misconceptions about dinosaurs that get under your skin? Ones that really get under my skin? Yeah, I guess it's just people's back and forth perceptions between seeing dinosaurs as animals and monsters. I mean, yes, we definitely know that dinosaurs have been seen as monsters for a long time. That's a given. And thanks to some works and thanks to some movies, especially like Spielberg, able to at least show them as animals. Unfortunately, I think people just go back and forth these concepts of of, of dinosaurs, like in the Jurassic franchise. Like sometimes people think like, a dinosaur would not do this or do that. Well, we don't know. You don't know that. And like how some people would react. So, like for example, when in Battle of Big Rock, the Allosaurus was going at them and was driven off because of a few arrows to the eye, around the eyes, and they think, oh no, it will not do that. As a guy who worked with animals, I've seen animals back off when something like at their eye gets to their eye. What do they always do it? No, but I've seen them do it. I've seen dogs that once they get actually got like a poke, like a good poke, or even accidentally a zapped in the eye, they back off. especially if it just came out of nowhere. And so I feel like people like saying, "Oh, they shouldn't be monsters. Oh, they're not monsters, but they will not act like animals." This really gets to me because, I mean, to me, I can see dinosaurs as monsters because I've seen animals as monsters. I've seen, from like abuse and neglect situations or stressful environments, I've seen animals become really monstrous. So I can see dinosaurs as both, but it's just that people have a hard time seeing them as one or the other. Another misconception is that saying that dinosaurs are superior, period. Now, for the big ones, I can see that being a thing, but it gets frustrating when they say all dinosaurs are superior to, like, the lions, the tigers, the moose, and so forth. It just gets me irritated. And so that's not really the case. No, that's not always the case. And that's one of the reasons why I am a big fan of Keenan Taylor, because he pretty much shows it that while dinosaurs are the dominant megafauna, he does show that mammals are no pushovers either. They definitely can throw their weight around in some circumstances. So, yeah, those are some of the misconceptions that really get under my skin. Can you please cover Spinosaurus in the Florida Everglades sometime? Well, I would love to be able to do videos on Spinosaurus in the Everglades or in captivity, if the scientists could at least get their facts straight, because it's become like a hot potato with Spinosaurus. Like, could it swim? Could it not swim? It's almost as bad as politics, and you will know. And we all know how bad politics are. If things on the Spinosaurus can just settle down, at least by the time I made this video, then I would might consider that. And when that has settled down, I would definitely get a sponsorship for videos on Spinosaurus if possible. So, but what's mostly stopping me is the almost political stuff around Spinosaurus. So there is that. Would love if you could do a video about how the world would be affected if Jurassic World Dominion would have actually taken place with accurate versions and with good populations. Well, so to speak, my Paleovader videos would basically be my way of bringing into that. In fact, my Apatosaurus in the Redwoods is basically my response to that. For how the whole world, that's going to be one heck of a series. I might either get to that eventually. It'll be a while. It'll be through my Paleovaders, or if someone would like to sponsor that video or a series of videos, I could definitely do that. So you can still make videos about breeding, raising, and rewilding pasture pigeons, Tasmanian emus, Mexican grizzly bears, Cuban macaws, Falkland wolves, and other extinct animals? I think I remember this question from when I made my announcement to do my dragon series. I would say yes. I will still make videos on that. I will still make videos and stuff like that. Those specific species in particular, I either might get to them in the future, or someone would sponsor them. So yeah, definitely. A couple of species could be substituted with living species, such as the Mexican grizzly bears and the Tasmanian emus. Those could theoretically be substituted with living relatives, but who knows? But still, yeah, I would still be doing regular breeding, raising, rewilding extinct animals. So, no worries on that. Stuff like what I did with the dragons and such, that's just basically going to be specials. That's cool. can you do the video with the Homotherium Rewild Zoocare or something? I got this comment when I made that post about the Homotherium mummy cub. When I saw that, I definitely wanted to do that one. I already got a lot of other videos in line for the first good chunk of this year. So I'll either get to that eventually, or if someone would like to sponsor a video on Homotherium, I would gladly do that. Yeah, that discovery was amazing, and Homotherium will probably be the most likely to be resurrected. And that'll actually be interesting. Resurrect the woolly mammoth, and the woolly mammoth gets large enough populations, then Homotherium could come to the mix. And since Homotherium is more adapted for the cold than Smilodon is, and it is native to Eurasia, it will probably be a pretty more perfect fit to bring Homotherium to the world than Smilodon. So, but who knows? Would you ever consider making videos discussing possible domestication for extinct species? You know, in a way, yes. I have considered on the possibility of making videos on raising a resurrected species for like agricultural productions and so forth. I've actually made posts about this, or polls about it. Like maybe like fish farming the saber-toothed or sable-spurred a salmon, like giant salmon, like probably as big as a wild pig, and even farming of dinosaurs, not just for human consumption and whatnot, but also to feed captive dinosaurs like T-Rex. So, depending on the species, yeah, but not all species are equal to be domesticated. Like, we never truly domesticated elephants, for example, so no domesticated woolly mammoths or anything like that. But for some animals, I could definitely make some videos on them in the future. And if anyone wants to sponsor one that's agreeable, then yeah. What is your view of the Chickenosaurus? My view of the Chickenosaurus. For those of you who don't know, Chickenosaurus came from a Jurassic Chicken project that the famous paleontologist Jack Horner proposed on basically getting into the genomes of a chicken and turning on the genes that will have the chicken display dinosaur traits and characteristics, and even incorporate some genetic engineering into the mix. When I was young, I thought this would be kind of cool, a dinosaur chicken. Now I'm older, I say, what's the point? I mean, the point of bringing back a dinosaur is to bring back a specific species, like Velociraptor, Compsognathus, T-Rex, that kind of stuff. But just having a chicken or even an emu that was also mentioned in the project, display like a long tail, teeth, and hands, that really doesn't have much of a value, at least scientifically speaking. So, and being the kind of person who's like, don't resurrect something, don't make something if you're not going to really have give it any meaning in its life. If we did bring up a Jurassic, a Chickenosaurus, say like, make sure that it has a good quality of life, but this probably not useful or shouldn't be brought up at all. At least that's how I feel about it. Question: Has anyone tried to ride the Morobus? I think it's obvious to say that, as far as we know, I can confidently say no one's ever tried. But if you do resurrect them and try to, it's going to be pretty awkward. Pretty wide in the body, having longer forelimbs and hind limbs, it's going to be pretty awkward. You're probably going to need a special type of saddle to be able to do so. I mean, I have seen a saddle that's been developed for a giraffe done in a picture in an old book I saw involving an animal trainer. But even then, you don't know how the Moroba is going to react, so unless you clone one, unless you resurrect one, you don't know. Have you come up with a complete Pzy Rulebook for handling this prehistoric menagerie? You know, glad someone asked, because that is actually something that I've been hoping to do in the future. To be able to publish books like manuals, like hypothetical manuals on taking care of a specific species per manual. Like, make a book series about it. I've always been interested in that. And along with that kind of thing for the future, there are also some other things I want to share with you guys as well. Especially for what's going to come up this year. At least for the first half of this. The first one that will be coming later for this month would be an enclosure considerations for Spinosaurus, that very peculiar Tamando reptile of the Triassic. And this is also a sponsored video too. On February, they'll be rewilding the Thalicaleo. On the March of this year, raising and breeding Tyrannosaurus Rex as a sponsored video. On April, another Paleo-Vader video, and also a sponsored video, Stegosaurus in Colombia, in the Central American country of Colombia. On May of this year, a Mother's Day video treat of raising the Maiasaura, and a sponsored video for this June, an exhibit for Anomalocutaris. This animal is going to be a very interesting challenge. These are definitely the first videos of the first 6 months of next year, the first half of the year that I got planned. I also have this Christmas, this year's December special planned. But I won't say anything until later in the year. My hint to you, it's pretty much Outback. Dude sounds like Hiccup, and that makes it so much better. Huh. That was probably the first time someone said that to me. I sound like Hiccup. Thanks for nothing, you useless reptile. Yeah, that is. I always did like that. A character's voice like that. So I take that as a compliment. You'd probably have to have a breeding group of medium-sized hadrosaurs to keep a group of TRexes fed. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It'll probably be a little bit more economical. However, mind you, out of the two species, hadrosaurs and T-Rex is more likely to be resurrected back than hadrosaurs. For that, they're theropods, more closely related to birds. We got more material on T-Rex, at least genetic material, and so forth. So in the beginning, we'll have to use like conventional livestock, like pigs and cattle. But then once you're able to resurrect hadrosaurs, able to get all the kinks taken care of and all that, then you could be able to raise hadrosaurs as livestock, so that you could be able to feed not just T-Rex, but many other large theropods more effectively. So I definitely agree with that. But until you resurrect hadrosaurs and the theropods came first, you're going to have to use what you got. I think that there are certain species that should be brought back for the better of certain ecosystems, and others that should stay extinct. Honestly, I do agree with that sentiment. Now I know in this channel I've made videos on multiple animals that would definitely not work well in the natural ecology, like Tyrannosaurus and such. But I definitely agree that we should focus on resurrecting species that died more recently and could be a benefit to the ecology, like woolly mammoths, pasture pigeons, Tasmanian tigers, those animals that died of more recently, and they can have an ecological role and services that they can do for the modern ecology. Many animals that died a lot later on, like dinosaurs, I don't really think there's going to be an ecology that's going to benefit from a large breeding population of them. So, yeah, I definitely agree with this sentiment. As much as I would love to see several certain species, I would say, yeah, well, I'm with that sentiment. Can the thylacine walk on a leash? Will it start barking? Can it learn tricks or how to communicate its needs to a human? Those are some of the questions I love to see answered. Interesting enough, to answer that, the first one, yes. Apparently, thylacines, or Tasmanian tigers, have been kept as pets. Illegally, mind you. by many Tasmanians, and several of them, not all of them, unfortunately, some of them have been able to keep them. They were very good pets. In fact, there's one guy who actually walked on a leash for a couple of kilometers. So it definitely showed that they could be walked on a leash. Would they bark? Well, they don't do barking the same way that dogs do. They would do a yip, yip vocalizations or a like a coughing bark for their communications, along with other vocalizations here and there. And and apparently, one farmer who had a Tasmanian tiger said that, probably jokingly, that he could probably teach him to herd sheep if he wanted to. Yeah, it's probably an exaggeration, but definitely shows that the thylacines are pretty intelligent, and studies on their brains show that they're more well developed than that of other marsupial predators like the quolls and Tasmanian devils. So they could be they could pretty much be tamed. Not sure about domestication, but still. So I would say, yeah, they could do pretty well in that kind. I imagine Smilodon were introduced to Yellowstone. How would they adapt? You know, I often imagined that in the beginning as well. But then the more and more I thought about it, especially when I looked up what Yellowstone is like and the animals and the Smilodon themselves, I think Smilodon might not do so well in Yellowstone as one would think. Because, mind you, Smilodon is extremely specialized in large prey. There are, like, basically the one type of large prey that we definitely know from records that Smilodon definitely prefer, that are still alive, are the bison. And of course today, bison are everywhere. I've been to Yellowstone myself, and they're basically everywhere. And while they definitely go right on a diet of bison, a large predator like that, having only just one prey animal species that's there for them to have, won't always go well for them. Not to mention, if it's not just the diet, like basically on the diet, you need more diversity of for a large predator like that. But anyway, other than just the diet, the weather would be trouble for Smilodon. For it actually turns out that during the Ice Age, snow was actually pretty thin on the ground, because most of the moisture is up in the glaciers. So in many areas, especially where Smilodon was, snow was thinner on the ground. And I can imagine, and I've seen pictures and videos of what Yellowstone snow was like, and I think it's going to be more of a hassle for Smilodon. But if I would have to say what Ice Age extinct cat that would do well at Yellowstone, it'd be Homotherium, the scimitar-toothed cat, or the American lion. I think those cats would probably do better in modern day Yellowstone more than Smilodon would, so there is that. Hi, may I ask, could I do some fan art for you? Love your videos. If you want to do some fan art for my channel and videos, yes, I definitely would love that. love to see someone making fan art of my stuff. Decent, good fan art. And here's an interesting thing. If you cannot be able to pay for a sponsored video, you can actually provide the illustrations or fan art for the video you want to sponsor. And that depending on the quality of the illustrations and the quantity you provide, can either provide a discount or a complete payment replacement for the sponsored video. So yeah, you could definitely do that. And that concludes this first question and answer video for this channel of this Paleo-Zoo-Keeper Rant. And if you want to be able to have a question or such in such video in the future, be free to leave it in the comment section in this video or other videos in this channel. It'll probably be on the next question and answer video, regardless of whether I've answered via replying or not. And now, let's start this new year of 2025 with this.
Welcome to the channel for the future caretakers of resurrected species. Welcome to the Paleo-Zoo-Keepers Association.